Speaker Ryan, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with news of Friday. Iran sanctions, new executive order signed. There is wide support in Congress for more sanctions on Iran. Right. That is clear. Let me ask you this, though. Would you like to see the beginnings of trying to get out of the nuclear?
Well, a lot of that toothpaste is already out of the tube. I never supported the deal in the first place. I thought it was a huge mistake. But the multilateral sanctions are done.
So that done meaning you're not going to be able to put that back together?
I don't think you're going to go back and reconstitute the multilateral sanctions that were in place.
Should be tried, though.
So I think we should expend our effort where it can pay off the most, and that's why I think what they're doing now does make a lot of sense. So I think the key is to rigorously enforce this deal, but also remember they're testing ballistic missiles. They're still the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Human rights abuses galore. And so those are where I think we also need to ratchet up sanctions. I think what this administration is doing, which I agree with, is saying we have a new administration and we're going to hold you, Iran, to account. This last administration did not do that. This new administration needs to do that, and I think that's what you're getting here.
Where's the line here? Are you concerned that Iran might retaliate and suddenly we're a part of the proxy war in Yemen?
You know, when we were appeasing them already, so it couldn't get worse than it couldn't get worse than what we already had. So I think they need to know that they're going to be held to account, because if if we don't do that, then they're going to go off and do all these other things. Remember, they are a belligerent force in the Middle East. Look at what they're trying to do to destabilize the region with all their proxies. Look at what they're doing to finance terrorism, their human rights abuses, testing ballistic missiles. You see, they write on the side of their ballistic missiles in Hebrew, Farsi, and English, death to Israel and death to America. This is not a peaceful nation.
Yet at the same time, they're helping to destabilize Syria in some ways, but they're on the same side as Russia. And it provides an awkward situation with this administration. What would be your advice to this administration? He's getting tough on Iran, but Russia's just as destabilizing in the region. But do you agree with that, first of all? That Russia is just as destabilizing? Yes,
well, no, I wouldn't say just as Iran. Nobody holds a candle to Iran's destabilization. So I don't think you can equate those two. But remember why we are here. The policies of the last administration were horrible with respect to Syria. I think because of the Obama administration policies in Syria is why we have both Russia and Iran in Syria. So now the question is, on a go-forward basis, what's the best way to resolve this? And I think that's what this new administration is trying to figure out.
I saw you say something the other day to Politico that Assad's a butcher, he must go. If you say he must go, you got to find a policy that does that. How do you get him out?
I think he should go. I think he should go, because
a lot of people think he should go. Yeah. How do you do it?
You know, I think the Obama administration missed an opportunity to follow up their words with actions, and I think the credibility of our country took a big hit, especially when the red line was not enforced. So I think we sustained some damage on our credibility then. So we have to assess where we are right now, what's the best possible outcome we can achieve going forward, and that's what the analysis I think this administration is going through.
Do you think it's a false choice, the issue of ISIS in Syria and Assad in Syria? I mean, and this is what's being
They should not be seen as mutually exclusive. You have an issue where you have people fighting for their own homes and their own homeland who don't want ISIS also, but are preoccupied with the fight against Bashar al-Assad. Then you have ISIS more in the West, which is a problem that is probably primary concern of ours, because ISIS is exporting terrorism. So they ought to be on the same side, meaning the people who want to free Syria, the people who want to live in peace, the people who don't want to export terrorism, they want neither forces in their own country, but both forces in their country makes this a much more complicated situation.
Defense Secretary Jim Mattis in 30 days comes up with a plan to defeat ISIS that includes increased amount of American troops, perhaps in Syria, to do it. Are you going to be reluctantly comfortable with that?
Nobody's comfortable. I've spent a lot of time on this issue, quite a bit of time on this issue in the last year. I think we have to get on top of this. We cannot afford to allow ISIS to continue to enjoy safe havens to recruit. The perception of them doing well is a good recruiting tool for them, but it's also having them with safe haven and cash helps them export terrorism. So we must, it's in our vital national security interest, we must destroy ISIS in Syria.
So if it's more troops at this point,
the point is that that objective must be accomplished. So let's find the best way to accomplish that objective. And I have a lot of confidence in Jim Madison finding that route.
You were talking about this issue, concern about ISIS having a perceived power or perceived strength, even maybe if they don't, but they like to their propaganda. The executive order.
I
know. The infamous executive order. There's been a lot of concern, whether it's John McCain or Lindsey Graham, Ben Sasse. This is not just one party of concern. That even if the objective of the order was something people agreed with, how they went about it handed a propaganda tool to ISIS. Is that a fair critique?
It's a fair critique. If this were a Muslim ban, I would be opposing it. It's not a Muslim ban. It's not a religious test. And so I think the rollout clearly could have been done better. The communication could have been done more clearly. I think they've now put in better processes to make sure that on a go-forward basis, it's improved. I think General Kelly is putting this in a good place.
Why is this good policy, though, if it doesn't include, why is this good policy?
I'm glad you asked that question. Let's go back to Paris and the terrorist attack in Paris. We, Congress, quickly got briefings on what just happened in Paris, and we learned that terrorists infiltrated the refugee population from Syria going into Europe, and we wanted to make sure that a terrorist-like attack could not happen here. We still have credible evidence that ISIS is trying to infiltrate refugee populations. So back at that time, we said to Homeland Security and the FBI, can you vet these refugees fully and convincingly so that you can make sure you can justify the veracity of a person's claim coming over here? And they said we couldn't. So we then said we need to have a pause in these programs so that we can have the right vetting standards in place to guarantee we don't have a Paris-like attack. We passed that bill with 289 votes. Huge bipartisan vote count. Harry Reid filibustered it in the Senate. At that time, candidate Trump said, I'm going to do this, if I become president. He's simply following up on his word. Now, that's a long stretch from what rolled out, I think, in perception. Nobody wanted green card holders to get mixed up in this, or people with special immigration visas, people in transit. So I do think there was a problem with the rollout. Yeah. But the content of this is exactly what we've been talking about. Now, let me just say one more thing. The rhetoric surrounding this is overblown, and that rhetoric claiming that this could be some kind of a Muslim ban hurts us and helps them with recruiting. So I think we should call these things for what they are and not have overblown rhetoric, which I think is counterproductive.
Well, let's look at it from the other side, though. It is what we talked about what you were talking about in France. Some of these are French citizens. Some of these are European. So the biggest terrorist threats that we've had here came from Saudi Arabia, or they came from Pakistan, or of course the fact the visa waiver program that we have with the EU. So the point is, if the objective of this order was to keep the country safer, recent history shows we targeted the wrong countries.
The hardest thing to guard against is homegrown terrorism, are people who self-radicalize on the internet. That's obvious, like Fort Hood and the rest. Those are very difficult. But surely a country can honor its own sovereignty by making sure that they have the right vetting standards in place from terrorist hotspots that we know people are trying to come here to do us harm. Okay. Surely
Pakistan and Saudi Arabia aren't places that belong on that list?
These 7 countries were selected by the Obama administration because of their unique problems with respect to people coming over.
But forget who it was selected by. How does Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and Egypt, all of whom have had foreign nationals, come into this country?
So you're suggesting we should do all Muslim countries? Is that what you're saying, Chuck?
No, my question is, does this actually achieve the objective?
Well, let's find out what General Kelly comes up with, because he's in the middle of his review to put in place vetting standards.
Let me ask you, though, one other thing. House staffers apparently helped work on it. We're told to sign non-disclosure agreements. I know it's normal for House staffers to help on presidential transitions, but the non-disclosure felt like should somebody paid by the taxpayers be able to have a non-disclosure agreement enforced? Doesn't that conflict with Freedom of Information Act laws and things like that?
Yeah, well, the Ethics Committee put in place procedures back after the election for how staff would interact with transition teams, and they're following those procedures.
So you don't have any...
Well, it's important to me...
Are you bothered at all that House staffers...
It's important to me that we have procedures in place that conform with our ethics rules. I think the reason for doing those is so they can have operational flexibility, not have leaks while they're contemplating policy rollouts. I'd refer you to the Judiciary Committee as to whether or not staffers should have been working on these things or not. But as a matter of practice, people here on Capitol Hill work with the executive branch on a daily basis.
Totally get that. It's that non-disclosure aspect. Was that a step too far?
I don't think that's a step too far because they were not even in office yet. So the administration. And what matters to me is that we had ethics procedures already set up ahead of time so that people were following those procedures.
You were tough on candidate Trump.
Yeah,
Let's make no bones.
We had our share.
You had your, but more of it has to do with you just sort of have two different outlooks. And I say it this way, a little bit. They got bigger windows, so I enjoy them. We can appeal to your aspirations instead of playing to your anxieties. This was a big speech you gave in the middle of the year. We don't resort to scaring you. We dare to inspire you. People with different ideas are not traitors. They are not enemies. They are our neighbors, our coworkers, our fellow citizens. When the president fired the assistant attorney general, he said she betrayed the Department of Justice. The point is, he takes a very negative tone. You don't. Is that something that you think over time is going to hurt the Republican Party?
Well, we've always had different kinds of Republicans throughout our party. It's a big tent party. You know me. I'm a kind of a happy warrior, Jack Kemp conservative.
Jack Kemp wouldn't have described America's inner cities as American carnage.
Yeah, no. I mean, neither would I. I think really what matters at the end of the day are the results. What I'm focused on, Chuck, is not, I'm not going on Twitter and seeing what the latest tweet was. I'm not turning on the TV. I'm focused on delivering results. We ran on specific reforms, specific solutions that we believe will improve people's lives. That's why we're here. That's why people gave us these jobs and this responsibility. And so really what I'm focused on is that. Get the policies done, make good on our promises and reforms to make people's lives better in this country, whether it's prosperity or peace and security. And what at the end of the day matters, so that we will have a successful Republican president, a successful Republican Party, if that's your basic question, are the results of this party that has been given this great responsibility.
Is there, I guess, is there a point where you just feel as if that, you know what, this is moving too harshly, that given he was elected in such a divided country, that he has not, has he done enough to try to heal division? Well, and I know that you can lay some of this and say, okay, the other side isn't accepting defeat, but has he done enough to be big in his victory? I think
he's going to feel his way through this. And look, what I'm excited about is that he wants to hit the ground running, and he's very much a man of action. I mean, we have conversations at 11 o'clock at night on policy matters.
Yeah, but are protests Saturdays sustainable in this country? Is this a sustainable political environment?
We can get to the left in a minute, but the point I guess I'd make to answer your question again is, it's results that matter, and if we're making a difference in people's lives that are positive, that's really what matters. And I do believe that the president, who's just, a couple weeks into the job, is going to get his stride and get his cadence. He's hit the ground running extremely hard. He's doing a lot. And there's a lot that needs to be done. What I'm excited about is how ambitious he wants to be on following through on the promises that we made in the campaign so that we can execute these good ideas and these policies. That's what's going to matter. All the division, the polarization in America, I think a lot of it can be healed if we get people back to work, if we help get people out of poverty, if we keep us safe, if we get faster economic growth and more jobs and higher wages, if we can fix these problems that are solvable in this country, that's what's going to matter at the end of the day.
You know, some prominent center-right and conservative folks who are, I guess you put them in the never Trump category. David Brooks and David Frum this week both had some really harsh comments and warnings to the Republicans. David Brooks writing, many Republican members of Congress have made a Faustian bargain with Donald Trump. They don't particularly admire him as a man, they don't trust him as an administrator, they don't agree with him on major issues, but they respect the grip he has on their voters. They hope they'll sign their legislation, and they certainly don't want to be seen siding with the inflamed progressives or hyperventilating media. But then he goes, the deal they've struck with the devil comes at too high a price. It will cost them their soul.
I just don't agree.
What do you tell David Brooks? How do you calm David Brooks and David Frum down, who both believe this is going to end badly?
Look at what we're doing to rescue this healthcare collapse that's occurring in this country, to replace Obamacare with patient-centered healthcare. That is one of the most important things we can do to avert a future budget crisis and fix healthcare in this country. Tax reform to get this economy growing, to help American companies stay in America, to have better jobs, higher wages. Look at what we're trying to do with getting people from welfare to work. Look at what we're trying to do to secure our country, to rebuild our military, to harness the energy potential in this country. All of those things will help make us a stronger country, but help people. That's what we're focused on. So my focus is not on David Brooks' column, it's on getting things done. And with the administration, I've spent a lot of time with the president. I've spent more time with this president in the last 3 or 4 months than I had with the last president in the last 8 years. Focused on getting things done, focused on an agenda, focused on making sure that we make good on our promises. At the end of the day, it is the results that will matter, and that's why I'm excited, and that's why I'm encouraged and inspired about what we have before us, because put all the white noise out the window. If we get these things done, which is what we're focusing on doing, we're going to make a big difference in people's lives in this country, and that's what this is all about.
You believe that all the concerns of the Frums and the Brookses of the world, when it comes to Steve Bannon in particular, his role in the National Security Council, all of those things, you think all of this is hyperventilating?
Well, I think there is a lot of hyperventilating. I've just gotten to know Steve since the election. I've had nothing but good relationship with him.
Is it his publication did not have a good relationship with you? Do you?
That's for sure.
I mean,
yeah. Well, you get thick skin in this kind of line of work. The key is we have an agenda that we agree on, that we're focused on executing and implementing, and it's going to make a positive difference. It's going to fix problems. That's the whole point of being in government and public services, making a positive difference in people's lives. And what I'm encouraged about is the fact that we in the House, our friends in the Senate, and the new administration have agreed on a comprehensive agenda, which are to make good on the promises we made. We ran on a very specific agenda to fix America's big pressing problems in 2016, and now we have an agreement on how to go about accomplishing that agenda. How refreshing is it that people who run for office and tell people what they're going to do, then get elected, go do it? That's what people want to see in government, and that's what we're in the middle of working on.
I can't believe I'm going to use the words very quick and healthcare in the same sentence, because it's an impossibility. But I have noticed, a lot of people have noticed, whether it's Lamar Alexander, who's on Senate Help Committee, yourself the other day, repair is a new buzzword. And if you look at some of the replacement bills that are out there, there are lots, good chunks of Obamacare that stay alive. Is that where this is headed, that it's going to be some hybrid of a big chunk of Obamacare, whatever it looks like?
No, I think I don't know what happened, but maybe somewhere in the press this kind of got crosswise. If you're going to repair the American healthcare system and fix its problems, you have to repeal Obamacare and replace it with something better, patient-centered healthcare, and that is how you repair this healthcare system. I think
this wasn't a way to condition the public.
Yeah, somewhere along the line there was confusion that we were going to take the Obamacare architecture and, tinker at the margins and repair it. You can't. It is a collapsing law. 5 states have one plan to choose from. 1/3 of all the counties in America have one plan to choose from. 70% of all counties in America have 1 or 2 plans to choose from. That's a monopoly or a duopoly. Premiums are going up double digits. Deductibles are so high, it doesn't even feel like you have health insurance. So the law is literally in the middle of a collapse. And it's our duty as representatives of our constituents, of the American people, to step in front of this crash and rescue people from this collapsing healthcare system and replace it with something better.
25 years from now, if there is a wall on the southern border, is it something that this country is going to be proud of?
I think we need to have a physical barrier on the southern border. I, along with Chuck Schumer and others, voted for it in 2006. Problem is, this last administration did basically nothing to put it together. So should we as a country, facing an opioid epidemic of drugs coming across the southern border, of terrorists trying to infiltrate our country, should we as a country be able to have operational control of our border?
Well, there's operational control, but the physical barrier, is it a waste of, is some parts of the barrier themselves too symbolic and too expensive for the symbolism?
But if you need a physical barrier to have operational control of the border, don't you think that that's necessary and proper?
I'm asking you.
I do.
Okay. I will leave it there very quickly. How are you going to watch the Super Bowl since we don't have anybody to root for?
Yeah, I know.
What are you rooting for? What result are you rooting for?
I'm rooting for a good game. I'm rooting for a good game.
Yeah. And you want drama with Goodell at the end?
Yeah. That would be actually kind of fun to watch. You know, Roger handing the trophy over to the Crafts. That would be actually kind of interesting.
I think that's a train wreck a lot of people.
If they can shut down Julio Jones, which they just swarm, the Patriots defense is really good. If they can shut down Julio Jones, I think they can win this game. So I bet the odds are with them. I haven't looked at the actual odds, but I would put the odds on the Patriots. We got to work on our defensive backfield, man. Holy cow. We've got some real injury problems. So I'm just looking for a good game. I'm going to watch it at home with my family. My brother and his family will probably come over. It's brats, it's Pabst, Miller, chips, salsa, stuff like that.
Very good. I'll enjoy the game.
Go Packers.
Thank you, sir. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.